So I had some fun. Some people may have seen it, but there was a Sunday Star Times article that was written by... Who was it written by? It was one of the... Amelia Wade, who's a fairly well-known... I think she's at Stuff, or TV3 News Hub former... I think she's on that side. I don't think she's TV1. She might be that side. But she wrote an article that kind of... was not favourable, or saying that there's a lot of business leaders in the country who are not fond of Luxon and his leadership and his government and their actions. The article is quite... there's some scathing... There's some negative commentary from the business sector, which is this National's, base voters, I guess, is business and business-minded people. But there's also some people who are like, oh, don't blame just the leader, it's the whole coalition, yada yada. So it's a fairly balanced article. But even still, I think the dissent that's coming out from this community is not good for National, and it's not good for Luxon. I think it's saying a lot, and it's following a trend that we've been seeing for quite some time. But I had some fun. So Christopher Luxon does his... I think it must be a Monday thing, but he goes on Mike Hoskins' show and he has a chat. So I had a look and I was like, oh, what's he got to say about this? Because obviously Sunday, if this came out Monday, then he's obviously had time to respond. But he didn't actually get asked about this. But we're going back to the fucking COVID. But there's some things that he says right at the beginning of this interview that went, oh, buddy, have I got a paper trail for you guys. So I'm sure you can see where this might be going, but I'm just gonna do my little... This is fun, so I thought I'd go down the rabbit hole, show you where I went. Follow along with me, kids.
Is it? I disagree. I think it's something called accountability, and I think showing up and actually giving the...
What do you mean?
Actually, they need to be called to account on that. But ultimately, they're cool.
Who is the bigger hypocrite, Ardern and Robertson, because they're no longer accountable, or Hipkins and Verrill, who are?
Well, I think, Hipkins and Verrill are making a case they want to lead the country again.
What a shit question.
And I think it'll be a disaster, but I think they should at least show up and actually front. But again, it's their decision. And I just say, I get what they're trying to do. Politically, if you're Chris Hipkins, you want to get out from under the rock, which is your last record when you're in government, where the economy got worse, law and order got worse, health and education got worse. I get it. He wants to gaslight and just move on from that past. But I think he should front.
Do you know...
Blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
So he's saying he should show some accountability. He should front up. And he should answer for the things that he's done in the past, right?
Right.
Coming from Luxon himself. Okay, so I thought that sounds a bit hypocritical, doesn't it? Talking about if you want to be a leader, showing accountability, right? Watch the laundry list, and this is just a little bit. Prime Minister on why he did not meet the Hikoi at Parliament. Christopher Luxon defends his decision to skip events at Waitangi. Why Christopher Luxon won't be at the Treaty Principles Bill debate. This is where it gets even fun. Or even more fun, should I say. He said he would be spending Thursday afternoon in a series of calls with world leaders to discuss the global trade war as US President Donald Trump made moves on tariffs again. But he said he wanted to make those calls from Auckland. I'm due to go back to Auckland, and I've got a series of engagements, he told reporters. Asked if he had a responsibility to be there, given the controversial bill came up because of his agreement with ACT. Luxon replied, let's back up, blah, 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 blah. Continue. This is quite poignant, because there's some news that came out today. PM skips Coalition of the Willing meeting.
Because it was late.
So he could go to the meetings around the Trump tariffs, right? Because those are important. He had to be there. He had to be in Auckland to make phone calls to be part of those discussions, right? However, he couldn't be part of a meeting that was set at 1 a.m. Fair enough, but you're the fucking Prime Minister. With some of the top... He was invited by some of the top world leaders, which I think is a fucking privilege in of itself. This was held by Macron and Starmer, and many other prime ministers and presidents from around the world who want to show solidarity for Ukraine and back up President Zelensky, who's currently just getting fucking thrown to the wolves by bloody Donald Trump, who's snuggling up to Putin at the moment. I'm sure Chewie could explain that far better than I did. But his reasoning for not attending, he says, I have tried to make them wherever possible. This one was at 1 a.m. in the morning. It goes for 2 or 3 hours, and then I'm on a media round this morning, and obviously down here for cabinet this morning as well. He rejected the suggestions he did not join the Coalition of the Willing meeting because he didn't think it was important enough. I have joined in the past. I was just saying that basically the decision was made that I was going to be well represented by officials in this particular instance. But I have joined the calls many, many times before, and I'll continue to do so. He was unable to attend due to the time zone differences. New Zealand was instead represented by meetings by officials. While we have participated in discussions, we haven't agreed on committing New Zealand to any particular action. We have made no commitments at this point. So, I mean, that kind of also says a lot, doesn't it? I'm not going to show up to that meeting of the Coalition of the Willing because I'm currently on the side of Trump and I do not want to get in trouble with him because of the tariffs. So I don't want to look like a good guy. Instead, I'm going to look like a guy who's on the fence, and I'm going to send some cronies who are just going to sit there and listen but not actually participate in any way.
This jellyfish in a blue suit is in full
Just
effect.
Just a reminder, at the very beginning of this, I played you a clip in which it said about accountability and if you want to be a leader, showing up to answer the questions. Of which, in multiple different historic events, plus this one, which is a great opportunity to put us on a good steed with a good number of countries.
Trading partners.
Can't even do it then. Trading partners.
It's wrong in so many ways. What do you think is harder to reschedule? The New Zealand Prime Minister's activities in the next day or maybe the afternoon before, and that's the thing of like, oh, I've got to call cabinet meeting and I've got to front the media in the morning. I think the media would be quite understanding. Chris Luxon's not going to appear on the breakfast show because he's got a multiple hour call with all the European leaders and he's been invited to participate in that. I think the media would go, oh, that's fair enough. Yeah, that's definitely something a country's leader should participate in. Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. And him saying that we haven't committed anything. We have.
Oh, have we now?
We have. We have New Zealand Defence Force personnel in Britain and Poland.
That is true.
At the moment. Helping with intelligence gathering. So for him to say that we haven't committed anything is bullshit. And you'd expect maybe the leader of the country should know where his defence forces are. Would be a pretty key aspect of it. But yes, look, every time that Luxon has the opportunity to show us what sort of leader he is, he does by flopping round on the floor like a freshly caught fish. It's embarrassing. Excellent point, Daniel. He prioritized News Talk ZB with a coalition of basically the only sane democracies left.
I, hands down,
like
would have
showing
chosen
up
the 1 a.m. meeting with Macron, Starmer. There was the head of the UN, I think it was. I'm not sure who it was. Someone from the
head of the European Union.
European Union, yeah.
So the coalition of the willing, as they're calling it, is Italy, France, Germany, the UK, Finland, Poland, and I think a grab bag of other countries. Canada and Australia, I think, get included with that as well. So
surely, in
a really just fucking unstable world, when you look around at the Western countries, we can't rely on the US anymore. it's an absolute basket case. We have no idea what Trump's going to wake up in the morning and decide to do. If we want to look at our traditional trading partners and people that we want to be aligned with, to just ride out whatever chaos is coming from North America, there is no better group of countries, in my opinion, than Europe. And I think that's a really easy thing to say there when someone's going, we're trying to build a coalition because Russia decided to invade another country. That's just really clear cut. You shouldn't invade another country. It has none of the more awkward connotations of what's going on in the Middle East with the Palestinians. We all know what we should do there as well. I've been very clear on what we should do there, but I'm not Prime Minister. I have the ability to make a decision, which is, I think, the defining difference between me and Luxon is that I can make a decision and he can't. That's all I can think of. But yeah, I'm sorry. I have to go to bed early because I got to talk to Mike Hosking in the morning. It's a terrible reason. Sorry. So we have to reschedule Saving Ukraine for another time. I won't be there.
It's not important enough.
Weak.
Yes.
Weak.
Well, it's not being missed by the international community, and it's also not being missed by the business community.
Oh, he can't lose the business community.
So the Sunday Star Times spoke to a good number of people in the business community, business leaders and such, who gave some rather unsupportive reviews of Luxon's current leadership. So I'll read a few bits of this because I think some of the quotes in this are quite interesting, and where they come from as well, I think are quite telling. Some of them it does seem quite, it kind of makes sense, right? There's a few people that have said that I don't want to go on the record. I'm not going to put my face to it. I'm not going to, anonymity, to not say who they are, which makes sense because most people don't want to mix business with politics. And but there's one quote in this that makes me feel like they're almost fearful of the National Party as a business, which is very interesting. If anything, it really should be the other way around, but for whatever reason. So many business leaders and political insiders, including those from traditional centre-right bases of support for National, are beginning to doubt whether that long-term economic plan actually exists. In more than a dozen conversations with the Sunday Star Times, they offered a less than rosy assessment of Luxon and his performance in leadership. I love this quote. I look at some of the things the government is focusing on and think, Rome is burning for some of our small businesses. Why are we talking about that? Said Viv Beck. Her counterpart at the Newmarket Business Association, Mark Knopf-Thomas, was equally bewildered, pointing to the recently announced redesign of passports, so English words sit above Māori. I think that's just ludicrous. I haven't heard of a single person say to me, oh gosh, the passports need to be changed, which is something I also pointed out. Auckland Business Chamber head Simon Bridges, a former national leader and Luxon's first pick to be finance spokesperson, has also come out swinging, calling for more government action to give the city a defibrillator shock to get its economy going again. We don't want to leave it to chance. A few more bad months after a few bad years isn't good enough. I think we should be I think there should be an urgency in government around intervention. And then this fantastic photo.
Holy shit!
Which is almost a jump scare. I don't know what this is, but he's aged I don't know, 20 years and
I'm just going to say, does this count as Simon Bridges' thirst trap? Because it's close to it. If he combined this look with a picture of him on his yak farm, which I said at the time was a winning way to go, is that we just needed to see more social media of Simon Bridges playing with baby yaks. He would have had the shit in the bag, and Luxon wouldn't have had his way with the National Party. Oh, I am looking back on Simon Bridges fondly. Isn't that weird? Isn't
Oh,
that
and that
weird?
was the fucking nightmare for National.
It
What
was a
shit
nightmare,
show in
but
PR.
we didn't know what a nightmare was at that point. Such innocent times. But yes, bearded bearded Simon Bridges rides back into Parliament on the back of a yak. That is something that I would get behind. But
Wagging his finger too.
this
I'll
is-
continue on.
This is
It gets-
spectacular. No, please do.
It gets more interesting. That's for sure. They talk about the polls, which we've seen before, so not looking so great for National, but within the margin of error, but certainly not great for their first term, for a first term government. Pessimism about the country's direction is seen by pollsters and commentators as one of the warning signs for a government, and is particularly unusual in a first term office. Following is Brad Olsen, who we've talked about quite a bit. Friend of the show, totally. It was clear to many business leaders there was no real plan on what to do about the economy. Brad Olsen, the chief executive and principal economist at Infometrics, a Wellington-based economic consultancy, said businesses he spoke with were looking for more aspiration and a realistic time frame for when change might be coming. There is always a challenge in politics around expectations versus reality and sort of saying too much. Under-delivering on those expectations can be dangerous. Right-leaning political commentator Trish Sherson, public relations firm Sherson Willis, said the government was struggling to present a coherent set of solutions and lacked the political courage to deliver them. A strategy of waiting and hoping for things to get better in time for the election year, that is not a strategy. Boardroom concerns spilled publicly into the headlines and airwaves again during Monday's back-to-back bad polls. And then they go into that. And also this face. This was printed, I think this is the image they used on the front of the Times. So I hope you all get to, whoever got to see that. I'm very jealous.
That's
And this is
amazing.
what the fuck he's doing there. So underneath all of these stats, which we're well
Attention,
aware of.
passengers. Can someone please tell me where the front of the airplane is? Thank you.
And it continues. Much of that frustration is aimed at Luxon. It's now common to criticise the Prime Minister or question his leadership behind boardroom doors, the Star Times was told. A well-connected insider said business leaders held their tongues publicly because Luxon had a reputation for shifting blame. But many agreed there did not appear to be any real plan. There's no doubt the chatter is there, another business leader said, asking not to be named because they didn't want to fall foul of Luxon and the government. There's dissatisfaction with the Prime Minister. And the rest of the article basically says Nicola Willis is definitely not, she sucks. And they basically said if one of the two were doing okay, things would be okay. But she's also not favourable. Then there's some talk about Erica, but then it seems like it's almost a joke, which I think is quite misogynistic, but kind of makes sense for this probably sphere of the country. And then there's a couple of things which was, saying that Labour wouldn't do any better and that they're talking too much about taxes, and some people saying that it's a coalition. It's not all his fault. It's hard. And that their donations are going up. So if there's any reason to get on board and put some money towards your unions and your party of choice, I would recommend that, because you're going up against a party that has, despite some shitty leadership, still gets a fuck ton of donations. So, yeah. Yeah,
Wow,
so that's it's not great.
That's pretty
Not great.
interesting. I mean, I think when you're talking, I don't think the banks have been particularly complimentary of the path that the National Party is on. And certainly if something like the fucking Business Roundtable or whoever gets asked for business confidence surveys, for fuck's sake, you might as well be consulting tea leaves. But I assume it's these people, right? If they're not happy, and I get why they wouldn't be. Like, if you're a true leader of a business to the point where they're asking you what you think of the government, I guess, I think they can recognise the fact that Christopher Luxon is a middle manager that has just been elevated way above his station. Like, his biggest call to fame is that he was an Air New Zealand CEO. He came in after one of the most successful and popular CEOs, Rob Fife. Literally all he had to do was stand there and not do anything, and everything was going to be fine. He tried to trademark the name Kia ora. He tried to make sure that cabin crew didn't have any visible tattoos in a country with the highest level of tattooing per capita in the world. What was the one that I got told up in Auckland? One of the people from our Auckland meetup was air crew at Air New Zealand when Luxon came in. And she told me stories about the pay negotiations that went on when Luxon came aboard. Because the quickest way that you can boost your financials when you take over, right, is to fucking just cut staff. Cut pay. Which is exactly what he did. Enormously unpopular. And it's exactly what he's done when he's come into government as well. And I think business leaders can see that. And then the other aspect that they can see is that our finance minister has no experience in finance. Has been a board member. And that's it. She has no grounding in that. So the people that do understand this stuff can see right through them. Like, if they're talking about, are these people the right people to lead the government? I'm just thinking of Nationals, like we're talking about Erica and all of that sort of stuff. Like, Nationals front bench is absolutely devoid of anyone with any sort of, as the kids say, riz.
And they have mentioned that in this as well, that they're no one knows who to point to for who's next in line, and they're all kind of just going, who's next? Who's it gonna be?
So you've got I'm just going to read the list from the top. Chris Luxon, Nicola Willis, Chris Bishop, Simeon Brown, Erica Stanford, Paul Goldsmith, Louise Upston, Judith Collins, Shane Retty, Mark Mitchell, Todd McLean, Tama Potaka, Matt Ducey, and Simon Watts. I mean, I know this is the other team, but is there anyone there that you would consider a potential leader? And I can see why people are looking at Erica Stanford. She's the only one that I think would have a shot. National MPs preferred PM ratings. Oh, God.
She sits at, I mean, we're looking at 0 points for everyone else. Chris is sitting at 20%. Erica is sitting then in second at 0.7%. Nicola Willis is sitting at 0.2%.
But I mean, that is a National Party team going, no, we're all a united team. No, we wouldn't roll our leader. We know that they would. If they
That's
chose
a one
the
news
right
variant
moment,
poll.
Yeah.
But
National
I swear, if you
MPs
saw a Labour version of this, it would not at all look like this. I think it would probably look very similar for Christopher Hipkins, perhaps, maybe a bit higher.
Yeah.
But then you definitely see Barbara Edmonds probably sitting pretty close to the top. You definitely see Heidi McAnulty sitting there, probably quite favourably. There's certainly a lot of names, I think, that would sit far higher than 0.7%. Holy shit, that's tiny.
There's a couple of people in the chat talking about James Meagher. Like that was a guy, like, as soon as he came in, like, he's in his first term or whatever, but people were going, oh, this guy's a potential National Party leader, like, breathlessly, like they were talking about Luxon before he came in. Now, let's just remember, James Meagher is someone that's got very bitchy about this show in the past.
Hey, at least he responded.
Yeah, but he responded like a little bitch. Like, we've offered for him to come on the
question.
show. Yeah, but he was a bitch about it. We said we can't see what he's doing for the South Island, and he responded, I'm sorry, I'm too busy not doing anything. And I kind of just went, yeah, that's our point. Would you like to come on and talk about it? Have we heard from him about how the South Island has no rail link to the North Island? That comes under his purview. Have we heard from him about the Southern Hospital? No, we haven't heard anything about it. So why are we hearing breathless things about a guy that is the minister for the whole South Island, who's not doing anything visible for us, who is outside of cabinet, but everybody's sure that this guy's going to be the leader of the country at some point, or the leader of the National Party at the very least? Like, he's a first-term guy. Like, I don't see why people are going, oh, he's definitely going to be leader. Like, this sort of breathlessness when it comes to someone that is unproven just baffles me. But yes, like, I think there's a dearth of talent in the National Party, even as someone on the outside looking into a team that I don't like. But, you know, surely you would begrudgingly say, hey, look, this guy has leadership potential. Like, as an example, didn't recognise it in Simon Bridges until he grew a beard. Who knew that that's all that it takes to put me on side? Where's our bearded Prime Minister? It's like when Andrew Little didn't have a beard when he was running for Labour Party leader, didn't get it, grew a beard, and then everybody realised how cool he was. Maybe that's what Chippy needs to do. What's Chippy's beard look like? I think you've muted yourself.
I have muted myself. I was basically saying I was thinking before, I don't think Luxon can even grow a beard, even if he wanted to. I think he's bald all over. The poor...
Oh, like a dolphin.
Poor man. Yes, squeaky.
Oh, that's unpleasant. Apologise.
Yeah, you brought it up. Cool. So we're all in the consensus is broad. Luxon sucks. We're waiting for him to be rolled, and no one knows who's going to roll him other than someone who is probably not going to be any more favourable. Is that the consensus?
Yeah.
Unless someone just like comes back from the backbenches and just like steamrolls it into top position. Erica was trying and failed.
Yeah.
Maybe she might have actually, to be fair, she might have failed with the right people as opposed to the wrong people. But it sounds like even the business sector doesn't really see her as serious. I found the comments around her were really interesting in that article, actually. They just didn't take her seriously or something. Like, it just very strange, considering that she kind of is the most competent of all of them at the moment. The bar's pretty low, but you know.
And look, that's the thing. In that list of Nationals front bench, she's the only one that kind of makes sense for them. Now, look, I'm not cheerleading her. Clearly, she sucks because she's on National. And her sole accomplishment this term is to make sure that none of the bullshit that Seymour's doing sticks to her somehow. And she's been doing that by playing dodgeball, duck, dive, dodge, dip, and duck. She wants nothing to do with what he's doing with school lunches or truancy or anything like that. She just doesn't want a part of it, even though whatever he does comes under her portfolio. And I think when you're looking at someone with political instincts, at least you can say that was the correct instincts. You don't want anything that little troll does to come over to that is Erica Stanford's problem. Like, so that shows some political nous and that sort of thing. But then she walked straight into her first major scandal, I guess, which was just going... Yeah,
first one was emails, but like we've seen that time and time.
Oh, yes, yeah. So the emails, and again, I guess that shows a little bit of naivety, and it might be quite common to other MPs as well. But yeah, that's two. But I don't think the teachers' union is going to be particularly happy with her and her performance. She's chucked out an entire curriculum with very little consultation. Yeah. And she just like. Her stuff with NCEA, like the strongest argument she had for getting rid of that, and look, there might be very strong reasons for doing it. Like, generally, I think teachers look at NCEA and say, hey, look, there's a lot of stuff that we can fix here. But the thing that we would hear in the news stories is, hey, look, parents find this confusing and students know the system too well so they can game it. Those are terrible reasons. Terrible, terrible reasons. So yeah, she's at least got a little bit of personality, but yeah, she still sucks. I'm definitely not pro Erica Stanford. That is for Pat to do. That's Pat's job.
Or me, who's going to swoop in and say something that you're all going to hate.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I had this discussion because we have a teacher in the house, so what Erica does is very poignant in a lot of ways, and oftentimes I get from the household statistician, but then goes, what am I missing? Because there's usually more to the story, but on surface, sounds like she might be doing a good thing. But my point is going to be is that I don't want the politicians who are in charge to do a shit job. I want them to be doing a good job. And if I haven't got the government that I voted for, I at least want them to be doing at least a half decent job. And if the next person who steps into the role of Prime Minister, because they're going to roll him before he gets elected out, I want that person to at least be competent. If I don't have the control and it's not the person that I voted in, I at least want the other side to be competent and we have a competent leader, even if I don't agree with their actions entirely. So I'm never going to be like, I want Erica to continue doing a shit job for education, because ultimately what I'm saying is that all of the kids who are currently affected by her policies are getting fucked over.
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing of like, I want the best person in there, but also if I have the choice to vote, I'm not going to vote for her, obviously, in her government. But if I don't get a choice and someone else votes her or someone else into that seat, I want them to be doing a good job. So I'm going to champion them to do a good job and ask for the person that I think is going to do a better job into that seat. That's where I come from, at least.
Look, I think that's a really valid point. Like, you look back at the Key government and you had, as an example, Chris Finlayson did a phenomenal job with his portfolio. And that is someone that is on the opposite side of politics that I like. And like, go and look at, the Bradbury Group had him on, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And look at his comments around what this national government are doing for Crown and Māori relationships and that sort of thing. And you can see a guy that is incredibly frustrated with what he obviously sees as a betrayal of the work that he has done, that he is seeing all of this undone. Now, he's the perfect example in my mind. He's someone on the other side of politics from me that did a good and competent job for the right reasons, for the net benefit of the country. And I want to know where those guys are. Like, I can have a conversation with someone that is on the opposite side of politics, and I can understand where they come from. Like, we can talk about the benefits of taxation and all of this. I'm fun at parties. Shut up. I don't see that with this government. Like, the ferry thing is a really good example. That is not a government looking at the pros and cons of a particular project and going, well, look, we didn't put this together, but it's, by all accounts, a pretty good deal because that's what people are telling us about. And like, you know, we can fiddle around the edges and make it seem like we've had some cost savings and that sort of thing. We'll find them elsewhere to make it look like we've done a better job than the previous government. I understand that that's part of the game. But what we got instead was a really knee-jerk, ideologically driven decision to shit-can the whole thing with no plan in place is incompetence. Whether it's just through sheer ignorance driven from an ideological point of view or just vandalism. I don't have an answer about which one it is. Nicola Willis is welcome to come on the show and we'd love to discuss it. State your case. Be accountable. that sort of thing. There's people in the South Island very concerned about this decision, but I think it's something that perhaps wouldn't have happened under a different national government. I think in the past we've had either pragmatic national governments or ones that, at the very worst, were heavily influenced by opinion polls. This one seems to be almost completely immune to polls and public opinion. And whether that's because National is being dog-walked by ACT and New Zealand First, who just clearly don't care. Like, they're pleasing their echo chambers and that's all that matters. They're part of the government, but they're not the government. And I mean, you're seeing that from ACT and New Zealand First. They are campaigning for themselves already. They're positioning themselves to take bigger chunks of National away. So, yeah, I think the version of the National Party that we have now is very different from the one that we've had in the past.
Yeah.
And I think that could be just because it was, we want to be we want to be the government at all costs. It could be because of the growing faction in National that is driven by the evangelical Christian right. I really don't have answers, but John Key's still got his favourites in this government. That's for sure. I think Stanford was one of them.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. She
I think
definitely has
he
a
was
feeling.
in the House
Yeah.
to see her, perhaps, but yeah, it's a strange one. I think people are waking up to the fact that, and yeah, it's way too late. We said this right from the start. Luxon's a terrible leader. He's a terrible choice. They chose him because he's business daddy, and my God, there's got to be more competent leaders out in that space. Like his pathway is nothing. Like, he hasn't built anything. He's worked for big companies his entire life and has just ended up in the CEO position of one. It's baffling. He's built nothing. He's a poor leader. And he was going to be the next John Key. He was going to be the great white hope for the National Party. It's
Great
weird.
white hope. It's terrible.
Yeah, I did mean it. And look, James, I'm going to highlight your comment here. I disagree, Chewie. It's much the same, just with more racism and doing most of the same bad things faster. And I think that is key. It is the speed. We have seen a speed of action out of this government that we have never seen before.
And I think it's why it's so damaging, right?
I think that's it's exactly it. There is no consideration. There's no reflection. It is just, we're going to do this, and that's what we've been voted in to do, and we're doing it, and we won't be swayed. And linking this to the start of the show, bear in mind that these are the criticisms that I have of Labour from their turn at the wheel when they had the mandate, is that they didn't do enough, and they didn't do enough fast enough. And here we have, they lost the election to these guys, and they have no fear of doing it fast, no matter what public opinion is or what the consequences are. So I don't want to see, when we get rid of this government and the left bloc comes in, I guess we don't have to act fast to undo all of this. We might see another term of government that is moving very, very quickly. And with that comes risks of its own. But I think to undo what they've done, they will have to act as quickly, if not more quickly, than our current government has. And that makes for some pretty turbulent times for the population.
It's going to be an interesting one next election, that's for sure. There's a
Yeah.
lot we're all thinking about, but I don't think anyone in the chat is questioning who we're all voting for. It's just it's a matter of nuance and speculation and curiosity and just wanting. I just want the best for the country. Like I think everyone needs to get into their heads the reality that we may not have a left-leaning government in this next election. That is a democratic possibility. And with that in mind, I want to make sure that whoever's in power is going to do at least a half decent job. And if they're not, then it's going to be hell. So we should vote. But there is a possibility that we may not get what we want. So I'm just hoping that they sort this shit out and get a much better National Party going. Please, for God's sakes, for all of our sanity.
I'm gonna try and manifest something here as a group activity. I want you to all think of this at the moment. It's election night. We've got a good indication of what the government is going to look for, at least what the main party is, and in an auditorium full of blue and white balloons and blue lighting, a mournful and sad-looking Christopher Luxon gets up on stage and gives a concession and resignation speech. Let's put that energy out there. We want that to manifest. Right. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at guided meditation.
I think we all just imagined that. But I think we all kind of also went, what does the other party look like? I can imagine that scenario, and I can imagine the Greens scenario. It's the other one.
Absolute triumphant Chloe Swarbrick and Marama Davidson holding hands on a podium and going, ladies and gentlemen, an open bar. We won.